who will be presenting today on Mr. Lewis Goes to China, studying Sinclair Lewis's novels in China. Dr. Chen has a doctorate in comparative literature from Tianjin Normal University, where her dissertation focused on Sinclair Lewis and American popular culture. She has been studying Sinclair Lewis for 10 years. In 2016, she finished her project on American literature and culture, which was approved and sponsored by the government of Inner Mongolia. Her first book, Sinclair Lewis and American Popular Culture, and I have a copy right here, gained the 7th Government Award for Excellent Achievement of Philosophy and Social Sciences of Inner Mongolia last year. She also teaches Sinclair Lewis in her class, which I am pleased to report is the most popular class at the university, according to the student survey. Dr. Chen will speak for about 20 minutes, followed by questions and answers. Dr. Chen.
Sally, excuse me, Ying and Sally, excuse me. This is Rusty. I just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording this, just so you're aware. Your voice and image may be available for others to see later on. So, excuse me, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to meet all of you in such a special time. At first, I want to express my sincere appreciation to Sinclair Lewis Society for offering me such a great chance to introduce Sinclair Lewis study in China. I'm so excited and also a lot of nervous. I'm so excited to see there are so many famous scholars because your names sometimes appeared on the book cover, but now I can see your face. Seems like a big fan to see their superstars. So I want to, you can tolerate my poor English in next 20 minutes. I will try my best. Can look like a student today standing on the platform. So I try to be a nice, I try to be a good student. Today, our topic is studying Sinclair Lewis novels in China. I made a PowerPoint to make it more clear.
Oh, that's pretty.
Also, my presentation will split in 3 parts. The first part, I will tell you something about Sinclair Lewis study in China, and the second part about my own research, and the third part about how to teach Sinclair Lewis in my university. Okay, considering Sinclair Lewis study in China, I don't know how to describe it. I can use the words beginning, also blooming now. Compare with other Nobel Literature Prize winners, the publicity and popularity of Sinclair Lewis and his works have left far behind. At present, there are only 6 Chinese translated versions by now. They are Babbitt, Main Street, Elmer Gantry, A Free Air, and Aerosmith, and the Kingsford Royal. After I came to Sinclair and do the research on the novel It Cannot Be Happening Here, I found a very interesting thing about that. Nearly 6 years ago, there is a university that organized a group of students to translate It Cannot Happen Here into Chinese. They also signed a contract with a publishing company. But by now, I haven't seen it on the bookshelf. I don't know the reason. There are some quite limited translated versions, and also about the scholar book, we have only 1 translated version. Also, such about Sinclair Lewis short story, drama, and poems, we have no such of material at hand. I will show you some pictures about our Chinese translated versions. Oh, this is a cover of Elmer Gantry published in 1988. Also, it's quite weird that the translator used a different name for translating Elmer Gantry. This word "ling" means cigarette. Yu means and. Yu means desire. So it means separate and desire. It's not a direct translation from Elmer Gantry. Maybe it's the implied meaning. Maybe the translator want to use such a attractive word to make people want to see what is in content about. And this is King's Blood Roy. Also, the translator translated into Wang Sun Meng. The Meng here means a dream, and the Wang Sun in Chinese means the royal family's grandson. It published in 1988. Also, this one, Error Smith. They are just directly translated the word into our Chinese word from their pronunciation. It published in 1987. This one is for free air. So we can see the same novels translated in 1987 and 1989, that 2 years. Also next, there are a lot of different translated versions from Babbitt and Main Street. The first one's in 1983, translated for Babbitt. In 1985. Next, 1987. They are by different translators and published by different companies. And this one is 2001. Also, it's 2003. Here's another one, 2006.
Oh.
And nearly 2015, they have another new book. And here's 2016.
Mm.
So there are 9 different translated versions for Babbitt from 1983 to 2016. I will show, oh, sorry, there are also a new one.
Yeah, that's 9 then. That makes 9.
Yeah. Next, the Main Street. The first one from Main Street in 1976 is also translated by a Hong Kong translator. And then goes to 1983. We have the first mainland translator translated Main Street. And then 2001, we have another Main Street. Here's another one, 2005. And here's 2011.
Oh.
And 2013. Also, I'm not quite sure whether you have seen this author's book in America, because this is the only one we can get for the translated research book in China. It published in 1994. So our research, including our university students, maybe some researchers like me, we do Sinclair Lewis research. We usually see this writer's book. Okay, next I'll show you some pictures about the 3 Chinese scholars we published some books about Sinclair Lewis. The first one is Yang Hai-Oh. She published the Sinclair Lewis book from the Cultural Narrative Study in 2010. And then another scholar, her name is Zhang Hairong. She published a book named is A Study of Narrative Space in Sinclair Lewis Fictions from narrative space point of view. Also, this is my book, Sinclair Lewis and American Popular Culture. So by now, there are only 3 scholars to do Sinclair Lewis study in China and have some kind of results. Okay, next I will show you some picture about our journal articles and dissertations we found in recent years. We have a similar search engine similar to Google research. We call it CNKI. So every Chinese researcher or scholar, they know this website. They need to check what their what the latest research field in this website. So when maybe it's not quite clear, I will explain to you. When I type Sinclair Lewis in the main street for search, there are only 130 results related to Sinclair Lewis. I give you a detailed. So I checked period from 1981 to 2020. There are total 130 related research articles and dissertations. We can see, okay, I arranged them in 10 years, different decade. You can see from 1981 to 1990, there are only 8. So numbers are very small. And during the late 10 years, the number becoming more and more. So by now, Sinclair Lewis study in China is becoming more and more popular. So also I checked the articles and dissertations scope I found. During these 130 related resources, there are 37 related to Main Street and 30 related to Babbitt, and 8 to Aerosmith, 3 to Free Air, 2 to Elmer Gantry, and 2 to It Cannot Happen Here, and 1 related to King's Roy. So from these figures, we can see that in recent years, Chinese mainly study always focused on the translated versions. So there's not of much space for Chinese scholar to do their study on the untranslated ones, maybe such as It Cannot Happen Here. Also about Sinclair Lewis, another masterpiece, Dorsworth, there's no one studied it at all. Also, I compared Sinclair Lewis study with some other Nobel Literature Prize winner. You can see the difference between them. Okay, when I type Ernest Hemingway in CNKI, I found there are 7,001 results related to Ernest Hemingway. So the difference is quite large. Also, when I type William Faulkner, I found 3,215 results related to him. And then about Toni Morrison, there also have 1,318 results. So compared with Sinclair Lewis, 130 results is quite small.
Yeah.
Also, besides this website, I checked how about our Chinese scholar introduced Sinclair Lewis in American literature books. Then I found Sinclair Lewis' name. The first time for his name appeared in Chinese American literature book was in 1978. The book was called A Brief Introduction on American Literature. So from that year, Chinese readers know Sinclair Lewis' name. And then nearly past 10 years later, another book called An Outline of Backgrounds of American Literature, published in 1988. In this book, the author also mentioned Sinclair Lewis. Then, nearly 10 years later, another one on American writers, 1999. We see Sinclair Lewis names again.
Looks like Walt Whitman down there, and Mark Twain.
Yeah, yeah. And then also 2000 year, another book called The 20th Century About American Literature. It included Sinclair Lewis. Also, these books introduce Sinclair Lewis to Chinese reader, could only use a few sentences to conclude his achievement and his books. Until 2004, in this one, The High Tide of American Literature. In this book, Professor Yu the first time used a whole chapter to introduce Sinclair Lewis. So by now, his introduction we see it as the most comprehensive literature review in China. He used the whole chapter, not just a few sentences, to introduce Sinclair Lewis to Chinese readers or students. Also in the same year, another professor published this book called A History of American Fiction. In this book, Professor Mao introduced the novel King's Blood Royal to Chinese reader and also give a highly recommendation to them. So usually Babbitt, Chinese reader usually know Babbitt and Main Street. They know nothing about Sinclair Lewis. So in his book, it's the first time they know, oh, there's another one called King's Blood Royal. It's also a good book. So from that pictures, we can know our Chinese tendency about Sinclair Lewis study. We can see that compared with the diversity perspective in America, Chinese study has a lot of limitations, both in the materials, also in views. Chinese scholars did a lot of study on Babbitt and Main Street, but they neglect other outstanding novels. Also, most of journal articles study main character of the novel or Sinclair Lewis' narrative skill or his writing style and so on. So there's not so much study pay attention to cultural background. So from that, I decided to combine cultural factor with his novel and with himself together, and then to form my own study. Okay, next part, I will introduce something about my own research. And this is my book, Sinclair Lewis and American Popular Culture. My book was based on my doctoral dissertation. This book mainly applies the theory of popular culture by studying Sinclair Lewis novels, and then to develop around with the conflict between the individual and the social cultural background. The purpose of my book is to tell the readers of many scholars about Sinclair Lewis' novel. He has a vivid and detailed presentation of ordinary American people, especially the middle class. Also, the book contains 3 parts: the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. The main body consists of 5 chapters. Chapter 1 just gives some introduction about popular culture and its theory. Also, the relation between Sinclair Lewis and popular culture. During my research, I chose 4 novels as examples. They were Free Air, Babbitt, Elmer Gantry, and King's Blood Royal. The reason for my choice was that these 4 novels belong to Sinclair Lewis' different writing period. They covered his writing career. So I did a lot of work to classify the details in the 4 novels and then form the next detailed chapters. Okay, chapter 2 is about the advertisement. It is also the typical form in popular culture, and further to examine and prove that in Sinclair Lewis' works, advertisement has become a method for people to pursue their purpose for fortune and fame, rather than just an instrument for commodity. I divided into 3 parts, from commercial, religious, and individual, to present relation between them. During this part, I used many examples from Babbitt. Also, when I read and studied, I could not imagine Babbitt was published nearly 100 years ago. I think it's just a vivid picture to show our Chinese daily life now. Because by now, advertisements have entered into our life completely. And sometimes we buy things at the advertisement promoted, and we are attracted by the alluring words because advertisement can grasp our inside desire only for 1 second. So I think advertisements sometimes they can make the choice instead of us. Also in Sinclair Lewis novels, it makes us see what a real life in popular culture. Sometimes we have our life, but in some way, our lives not totally belong to us. Chapter 3, I talked about the daily leader life. I divided into 4 parts from movies, traveling, social gatherings, and reading. I collected all the materials in these 4 novels, and I then divided into these 4 groups. I want to talk more about movies and readings, because in Sinclair Lewis, he let us know what movies had a great impact on teenagers. For example, there are 3 kids in Babbitt. They all wanted to be a movie star and enjoy the movie world. When I read this part, I cannot help thinking about Chinese youth now. Because in modern China, there are a lot of youth, they want to be the internet celebrity. They want to live in the visual world. They want to spend more time to chatting with the internet posts rather than communicate with their parents or friends in reality. So I think these kind of youngsters also like Ted or Tinka 100 years ago, they just immerse themselves in the visual world. So from Sinclair Lewis' description, I have a strong feeling that he was an extremely responsible writer. he cared about American future. I think he didn't want to see the young generation of America become just a group of fans of American stars. Also, for the younger generation, they already had little tradition of their forefathers. And whether they can be the backbone of the country or whether they can make the country better than ever, these concerns were all reflected in Sinclair Lewis's novels. So after reading the whole novels, I can sense his strong social responsibility and deep concern about America. Also concerning about our reading, I find a very strange thing. We know that Sinclair Lewis loved reading very much. But in his books, he carefully describes something about the reading's transformation. In Babbitt, no one loves reading but Tinker. There are also a lot of books just as a decoration book on Babbitt's home. I also remember there is a dialogue between Babbitt and Ted when Ted complained about school's requirement for them to read the classical literary works such as Milton and Shakespeare. Ted called that books old-fashioned junk. And then Babbitt didn't give any criticism about Ted's misunderstanding about critical literary books. It just said, oh, these books are maybe a promise for entering into college. So in Babbitt's mind, the enlightened and cultivated rule of classical literary books are simply equal to an ordinary test. It also represents a very, very common phenomenon in some families in China. Many parents and children, they read a lot of books just for reading, not for understanding. Okay, also as for reading, once I asked my students what about their views, whether they want to see a book or adapted drama or movie. Everyone wants to see the movie, not a book, because they say the movie or drama could save much time and the pictures were more appealing to them. I think that is a real problem because reading needs us to think and the movie just enjoy. So it's a big question. Obviously, the readers in popular culture were more likely to accept movies' visual pleasure. That is also the typical characteristic of popular culture, just enjoy the entertainment. I think Sinclair Lewis also noticed it. That's why he really wanted to write some serious book. This good book to make people think more. Also, in next chapter, I write something about daily life. I put into 4 categories from commercial service, dressing, automobile, and in-room decorations. I want to say something about in-room decoration. How to say, when I read Babbitt, I feel very sorry about him. The strong feeling is just happening in the in-room decoration part. Because we can see in Babbitt, Sinclair Lewis mentioned so many times about their standard decoration, about their standard piano, standard picture, standard light in every living room, even their bedroom, they also have the standard. But we don't know what is standard and who sets the standard, no one knows. We only know that no one dares to against the standard. That's quite a strange phenomenon. Also, I think in popular culture, this culture form just asks people to sacrifice their freedom. You need to be standard. You need to accept the culture gives to you. You don't need to fight against it. we can see Babbitt have a very fancy home, but also in that book, Sinclair Lewis wrote, his room is fancy, but there's no one feel love in it.
No, no bark. No bark.
Okay.
Is that Ralph?
Yeah, it's me.
Everybody should mute.
Okay, I'm going on. Also, I'm quite wonder that is that an actual reflection of Sinclair Lewis' own feeling? Because we know Sinclair Lewis kept moving, he was restless. Maybe he wanted to find a real home, but he couldn't find it, so he kept finding. Also, in this part, Lewis let us know the compulsory of popular culture. From the in-room decoration, we also can see the people, the softness, and they like to listen to other people's review, but have no freedom to fight against it. Okay, chapter 5, I do some research on education. From the family education, school education, religious, and social education. So nowadays, there's a very popular word in China called family of origin, which means the importance of an individual's family of origin is enormous. Our family has strong impact on us. It can influence our belief and even influence our whole life in many years. So when I mention that, because sometimes I thought why Sinclair Lewis was so rebellious in his teenagers. Also, he had such great courage to write Main Street. Was there any relation between he and his family? Because his father was very busy and his brothers were all doing their things. He always played by himself. So sometimes we think this kind of children, they need to do something to attract other people's attention. Also, he saw the world with a quite different view. I think although he against his father's wishes, in fact, sometimes I wonder, in fact, the biggest encouragement he wanted to gain was from his father. He wanted to become the proud of his father, and he also wanted to be show that he can make it. He can be a good boy in his father's eyes. That is my guess. Also, I want to say something about social education. It means that the society actually taught us more than the books. No matter how many years we are in school, finally we need to get into society. So in Sinclair Lewis books, there are so many people's fate or destiny that are changed by society, such like Elmer Gantry, Paul, Babbitt. Sometimes they have no choice to accept. Although they are individuals, but their destiny represents many of Babbitt's. So from this point of view, I felt very sorry for Babbitt because he also had his sufferings. He had no choice but to compromise to society. I think Lewis also learned many lessons from society, but he knew what he really wanted and stick to it. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't know what's our choice. We just follow other people's opinions. My book finished on 2016, and during the 2 years, I found the more connection between popular culture and Sinclair Lewis. And by now, I also have an intense feeling about their relations. So I put my personal experiences with Sinclair Lewis and his works, and also combine our Chinese culture into my teaching. So next part, I will introduce Sinclair Lewis teaching in my university. In 2016, I taught a course called Introduction to Contemporary Foreign Literature and Culture for all the undergraduate liberal arts and science major. The main purpose of this course to introduce great writers and their works to all students to cultivate their multidisciplinary thinking. And my focus on Sinclair Lewis. Okay, when I'm teaching that, there are many challenges for me because the students, they have different academic background. They are ranging from freshman to senior, especially from the different majors from philosophy to computer science. And also, it's difficult for me to use the abstract theory to teach them. So I need to use concrete examples to let them know about Sinclair Lewis. Also, another difficult thing for me is many students, they are not familiar with Sinclair Lewis. So most of them, they even didn't hear about him at all. And third thing, I want to let them know that although Sinclair Lewis wrote many books a lot of long time ago, his books also have a strong impact and a close connection with our today. So during the teaching period, I asked students to read some recommended books. So one day when I asked students which character they like most, they gave me such a quite surprising answers. Most of them, they think they want to be Elmer Gantry. Yeah, it's a shock answer to me because, I don't know, because they think Elmer Gantry is very clever, although he's very cunning. They also want to challenge whether in today's China, to be Elmer Gantry can still be popular as in Sinclair Lewis time. When I said, how do they think about Babbitt? They said they feel they are Babbitt, or they feel everyone is Babbitt. Because they think Babbitt can stand for their relativity, they want to be their self in sometimes that they have no choice. They cannot against the society. They cannot against so many rules. So finally, they need to be what other people want them to be. So that they think they feel the same feeling about Sinclair, about Babbitt. So finally, I can sense my students, they understand Sinclair Lewis. And even they have no generation gap between this youngster and Sinclair Lewis. I think this is a great magic power of the great writer. No matter how long it will pass, and no matter how big differences between the readers and the writers, they still have the same echo at the same time. So last year, my course was becoming the most popular course in university. I think it's thanks to Sinclair Lewis' magic power. Also, my students asked me one question about, does Sinclair Lewis have some kind of shortcomings? I don't know how to answer that. I want to make Sinclair Lewis to be a perfect man in their mind. But when they ask me some question, I don't know whether I can tell the truth about Sinclair Lewis' private life, or I just let them know Sinclair Lewis was such a great writer. Maybe some of you could give me some suggestion for that. Okay, since I came here in St. Cloud, I read a letter from Sinclair Lewis to his fathers, to his brother, and to the young lady. I found a quite different Sinclair Lewis. It seems like there are many Sinclair Lewis in one Sinclair Lewis. He was a great writer and also an ordinary person like me. He also has some his loneliness, has some his sufferings, and he made us to see the world clearly. So I think his personal world is hard to touch. I feel so lucky I have a chance to study Sinclair Lewis since now. Okay, after I came back to China, I will try my best to make more people know Sinclair Lewis, understand him, and improve Sinclair Lewis study in China. So I think that is all my presentation. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your listening. Also, if you are interested in China study in Sinclair Lewis, please contact me. Also, if the Sinclair Lewis Society want to have some collection of Chinese translated version, also I can do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ying.
Email, if you have any question, you can just contact with me.
We do have some time for questions if people here want to do a chat, either by writing it down or just by sort of virtually raising your hand. Susan O'Brien, one of our board members. You're on mute.
Oh. Oh. Yeah. Say, can we get the email address?
Oh, okay.
Happy Day 6677 C.
Okay, Susan is now unmuted, so go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Ying,
Hi.
thank you so much. This was a fascinating presentation. I'm in awe of your skills to do this. And I wondered, of course, how you became interested in Lewis. And also, I believe you said that there was an interest in Lewis was coming on between 2011 and 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so what is the reason for that current interest today?
You mean the Sinclair Lewis study, they are main focused on today's in China?
Yes.
Yes, I think
China.
by now, I checked the website. By now, the Chinese scholar or Chinese students, they study Sinclair Lewis from translated version.
Uh-huh.
They want to see some difference between different translations. So as you have seen, there are 9 translated versions about Babbitt and 7 about Main Street. Also, unlike American readers, they read the original Babbitt, original Main Street. Our Chinese readers or foreign readers, they know the novels through the translated versions. So there's a problem because we know the translated versions, it's good or bad. It all depends on the translator's language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if the translator can understand the whole novel, can understand Sinclair Lewis' inner world, they can be quite different between different translator versions. So by now, a lot of researchers, they do some translated study about different translation. Also, I checked about it cannot happen here from the website. I said there are a group of students, they already translated part of them, but they haven't published. I checked there are a lot of misunderstanding about it cannot happen here.
Oh.
Also, it cannot happen here. Well, I read it twice. At the first time, there are a lot of slang words, a lot of social background. I have no idea at all. What is that about? I don't know because I'm foreigner. I don't know about the concrete history. Yeah. So I read it twice. Then I know, I need to check a lot of things. But for students, their knowledge maybe have not much to price themselves. Also, translation requires not only the translator's foreign language ability, it also requires the translator's Chinese ability.
Yeah.
To go to Susan's other question, what got you interested in Sinclair Lewis in the first place?
Oh, it's quite interesting. It's a long story. when I want to get my doctoral degree, I asked, I go to see my tutor, and he asked me which writer do you interested in. I think by now, because we have no Nobel Prize winner by now in China, so I want to study the first Nobel Prize winner in America.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Yeah, sure.
Then I found that, to be honest, before that, I don't know Sinclair Lewis at all. And when I found that, when I contact with Sinclair Lewis and his novels, I feel sometimes I fall in love with him. And understand more about him. So, how to say about Babbitt? I think it's a great book. Sometimes I read it many times. I think when I read it at my doctoral year, maybe in 2011, maybe I read it 3 years later or 4 years later, I can have different insight into it.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Other questions? Jim.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really wonderful. And I hope to be able to see you on another Zoom call next week. So we'll see. Anyhow, you mentioned that there were a number of books published in China, Babbitt and Main Street, and also Elmer Gantry, I think was. I was curious, did you have any research on the number of books that were actually sold? Because that would be interesting for me to see if there was an interest in more publications, for example, that could be that, since the interest seems to be growing a little bit. What was the success in terms of numbers of books actually sold in China?
By now, I think we can only find a couple of them, not all of them, because the picture I presented on the PowerPoint, there are a lot of books from the history museum, something like that. So I will check it and tell you how many books we can find it on the market right now.
I was just curious about how many books were actually sold. I mean, when they published those books, who bought them? Were they available for the general public, or were they just in libraries and in universities?
Until then, never, no pressure about that.
Okay.
So, and to tack onto that question, I'm curious about why there are so many translations of Babbitt and Main Street in a span of about 10 years. There's like 10 or so translations of those, right? Do you have any understanding of why that is?
How to say that from the broad thing, we can see that it is Sinclair Lewis study become blooming in China. So many translators want to retranslate the former one. I think maybe the different types, they have different requirements. By now, Babbitt can sometimes represent our Chinese daily life now. So they want to use more popular words to translate Babbitt from different times.
Okay. All right. Ralph had a question. Ralph is the current president of the Sinclair Lewis Society. Go ahead, Ralph.
And I'm operating on my wife's computer because mine crashed. I'm not Barbara Como. I'm Ralph Goldstein, and I apologize for my dog barking earlier. I have a question about your students' reception of Main Street. Wondering how many of your students come from rural areas. In Main Street, the tension between individual and community, between the big city and the small town, is central. With Babbitt, social conformity is an issue in Main Street. So I'm wondering how you experience Main Street and those tensions.
Okay, concerning about Main Street, to be honest, my students, they are not quite much like Main Street, because they think that maybe in different times, maybe in modern time, color choose another different type of social, can choose her own life. So I think for the youngsters in this modern time, they have their freedom to do a lot of things. They think if they were the player in Main Street, they are not going to the normal life.
Okay.
Okay, looks like we have 2 questions on the chat. One's from Judith Dorn, and she says, I wonder why there was a big rush of translations of Lewis in the 1980s. Very interesting. Was something going on at the time to make people interested in the 1980s that made it really popular?
I'm not quite understand the question. You mean about the translated name of the Sinclair Lewis now books?
Basically, it looks like why were there so many translations in the 1980s? What happened that made it so popular all of a sudden?
Oh, because at that time, I think China undergone 10 years after its open up policy. So the whole country is in the state of welcome the foreign things. So there are many books. They also know Sinclair Lewis is the first American Nobel literature winner. So they want to let Chinese reader to know about how the American literature winner novel looks like. So at that time, they can have so many translations.
Okay.
Also, you can find that during that time also reflect a phenomenon in Chinese translation period. Just like I said about Elmer Gantry, its translated name has no connection with the book Elmer Gantry from the directed side. I said the link means separate and desire. Because in that time, Chinese people always shut down. So suddenly they can see the outside world. They want to see it. I think if the translator just use Elmer Gantry directly translated in Chinese in Chinese language, there are not so much attractive than separate and desire. I'm not sure I understand that. So when he translated to desire and separate, Chinese people want to say, wow, desire? What desire for that? they have some desire to see that.
Well, nothing like a hot title to make it exciting for students.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
We have a question from Debbie Carter, who says, do you think that the humor in Sinclair Lewis's novels appeals to your students? Do they find it funny?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'm quite shocked by they gave me their answer. They want to be Elmer Gantry. I don't know whether Sinclair Lewis knows that he's happy or sad. Because I think in his books, he show us Elmer Gantry is such an evil, but by now, this evil become very popular man.
Yeah.
Other questions? No hands up? Anybody?
Oh, just
yeah.
one more. You said that your students feel that Babbitt represents modern day life. That he's a striving middle-class businessman. Private enterprise thrives in China. But do any of your students emphasize the bourgeois values? It seems that Lewis was poking fun almost page after page. Do your students get that? This is critical of bourgeois values?
You mean the social value in Babbitt, does it coexist with students' value now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm wondering if maybe there are a few outliers among your students who say, no, we don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my question, essentially.
Yeah, I think concerning about Babbitt, some students, they have some question about why Sinclair Lewis always write some novels with no such a confirmed ending.
Hmm.
They want to see what's going on Babbitt. They want to get a happy ending maybe, because our Chinese people, they always want a happy ending. But such as in Babbitt, in Main Street, in Kingsborough Royal, there are no such a confirmed ending. So they sometimes, my students ask me, what is finally what's happened after that? So I just say, use your imagination. You can rewrite it after Sinclair Lewis.
Yay. Somebody, Roy had your hand raised.
Either Dr. Ying, please, or someone else maybe can answer this question. Are the translations done in relationship to American publishers, or are these just independent translations anybody can do in China without sort of a connection to who the original publisher is?
Well, I can answer from American publishing. Anything that's published 1923 and before is totally out of copyright. So
Okay.
anybody could translate. I don't know exactly what the copyright rules are in China, but you know, the earlier things that you're doing, Main Street, Babbitt, Free Air, anybody could translate. And
They're all available. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Also, I'm glad to hear that, because I really want to introduce more Sinclair Lewis great masterpieces into China. I have time, I can translate it.
Yes, Michael Pesch, that's not you, but. No.
I'm Constance Perry, and I'm at St. Cloud State University, where Ying is has been studying. And so Ying, you had an opportunity to read the novel It Can't Happen Here for the first time. And that novel became very popular in the United States once again when the current president, Trump, was elected. It surged in popularity here in the United States. And do you think that the students would be interested in that novel as a criticism of what's happening in the United States since 2016?
I need to say, the novel It Cannot Happen Here, I think when the students are such as me, when I came in America, I can have a strong feeling between the novel and the president. But in China, I think they have not so much actual feeling. They have not so much close connection between, how to say, they cannot feel how much close connection between this novel and the president. They just say president is president and novel is a novel. They have not so much feeling like me in American, we can know maybe the novel and the president have some of a link. But in China, just say novel is novel, president is president. I'm not quite sure. Am I clear about it?
Yeah.
Because we are not in America, because they are not in America, they cannot imagine what their relationship between the novel and the Chen. Also, in China, we think president or maybe our leader, they are very higher, they are control us. So we have no such of right to make some connection with them and a novel.
I see. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Susan, did you have your hand up?
Well, I did. I'm not an academic, but you asked whether you should, how much of his personal life you should teach. Did I get that correct?
I'm from 2016 to 2020. You mean in teach Sinclair Lewis in my
Yeah, you were questioning whether
3 years.
how much of his personal life you should teach. Did you not ask for input on that, or did I get that wrong?
I teach Sinclair Lewis in my university for 3 years.
Yeah, but his personal life. Do you teach his personal life?
I teach nearly 14 years.
Of his personal life?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was just going to say, I don't think you can understand him without information, for example, about Sauk Center, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's why it was so nice of Jim to give Dr. Chen a tour of the house so that you could actually see what it was like and everything. That probably will help with teaching Main Street in the future.
Yes.
Somebody else had their hand up. No?
Well,
Oh, Fred?
well, it would be good then to, I mean, thinking of Lewis's personal life, you know, taking that into account, it would be good to have translations of the major biographies.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the last big one by Richard Lingemann
Mm-hmm, yeah.
would be very helpful. As a matter of fact, speaking of Babbitt, I mean, Richard considers Babbitt to be his finest novel, and as a great example of what he calls satirical realism. And that, well, and then of course the standard biography by I forget his name. That's terrible.
Mark Shore.
Yeah, Mark Shore.
Yeah.
It certainly gives you plenty of information on Sinclair Lewis's personal or private life.
Yeah.
And that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
To understand Lewis better in China.
Yes. So after I came here, I took a lot of pictures about Sinclair Lewis books. And after I came back to China, I want to share with all the materials I collected with the other Sinclair Lewis scholars.
Sounds like you could train a whole bunch of scholars to help you with all the translations.
Okay, due to my personal Sinclair Lewis library.
Yeah.
Other questions? Roy?
Please, Sally, how much do Chinese academics, how comfortable are they reading English? And how about your students? How much do they read English?
Oh, you mean reading original English?
Yes.
They read English very, very little because they think English, they just treat English as a test. So they think if the teacher don't ask them to read English, they never read English at all.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's hard for them to understand the original novels.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from anyone? It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. Sally Hoople, one of the original members of the Sinclair Lewis Society. Some of the people here have been members for many, many years.
And I haven't seen you for many years, so it's lovely to see you and Bob.
Yes, so I guess this virtual presentation is kind of like a mini homecoming in a sense.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Fred, did you have a question?
Well, no, I think that, considering the, reading the original English, which of course really would be really necessary to fully understand Lewis, but even in the original English, I would think that Lewis really it would be very helpful. I don't know whether it would ever happen to have a critical edition of his novels, because they are so dense with detail and detail that modern readers, modern American readers wouldn't. I mean, a lot of they'd have to look up all the references and names and so forth and so on that Lewis gives. So then when you get to the translations, you're talking about the different translations. Is there any evaluation of the translations? I mean, the translations could be run from pretty good translations to miserable. You have that. I mean, if you look at German editions, German translations, there are, and I've thought about writing about some of them. Some of those translations are really pretty bad too, and that's in a Western language. Between German and English. So, you could be getting you certainly wouldn't be getting all of Lewis through those translations, even the best of them.
Well, that's true. I mean, I know that when Ralph was teaching, didn't you do some assignments for your students so that they would figure out, like look up what the cars were like and various cultural artifacts connected with the book?
We did a website hyperlink images from 1920s, historical references. I'm just getting a message. My internet is unstable. Well, anyway, we did that. We also compared social issues in Lewis's books to contemporary social issues. I had students write papers on it. The mysterious connection between Thoreau and Lewis, I had a team of students research. So Lewis studies is fertile. And I just want to take this opportunity to say to Dr. Chen, I believe the future of Lewis studies is good. I'm really grateful for this chance to get together with everybody and to meet you remotely and listen to your experience and persevere.
Okay, thank you very much. It's also a great honor for me to share my humble views to all of you. All female scholars and professors. It's making me very nervous. So I kind of feeling like I'm a stupid student now. I'm teaching teachers now.
You're actually having to do Zoom meetings like this for international.
I sometimes do the Zoom meeting.
International, connection and so forth is almost a blessing in disguise, actually.
Well, I figure if we don't have the opportunity to get together, and we do have members from all over the world. We have some in Japan, we have some in Portugal, and so forth. So this may be a way to get international scholars a chance to speak to, other people who are interested in Lewis and don't have the opportunity every couple of years to come to Salk Center or something. So yes, I appreciate Dr. Chen very much for being very brave and kicking off this whole thing.
I want to be the first one to eat crab.
Yeah.
We do have a question or comment from Debbie Carter, who says, could the Society's scholars do a collection of excerpts from Sinclair Lewis novels? There's competition with other authors and students may not have time to read his entire novels. So in other words, if we could come up with suggestions of, I don't know, a great chapter or a great excerpt from various novels, perhaps that would be a way for Dr. Chen and for other international scholars to share with their students kind of like highlights of Sinclair Lewis. I think that's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
So send them in to me. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll do an article or something, and then if we get enough response, we can always pass that on to our teachers across the world and see what happens. Roy?
Sally, just a comment, please. The accustomed to watching the Skype people on news, which have always these delays. the simultaneity of this is just mind-blowing. I mean, you know, there's essentially no delays here, and it's just, you know, it's hard to believe.
Well, I've done more Zoom meetings in the last 2 months than I have ever done in my life, and I'm sure a lot of people here who have been teaching or have been administrators or something have just discovered a whole new world in terms of sort of electronic communication.
But I've never been on one that's gone any further than the U.S. and Canada.
Well, we do have some international scholars who have said that they're interested in speaking with us, but have not been able to. So we might be able to make this into kind of a series and do one every semester or something, and we'll just point to Dr. Chen as our first good example, right?
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for listening.
Thanks to Rusty too.
Yeah, thanks, Rusty.
Rusty and Sally.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. This has been
Picture
Thank you,
of my
Thank you.
books. If
Oh,
you want
yeah.
to, this is my book. I have so many copies in China. If you want to have someone, I can mail it to you. Although it's in Chinese.
Yeah. That's a little problem. We'll have to translate it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Well, thank you for everybody. Just hit leave meeting and we'll be done. And if you have other questions, you can either send them to me or to Dr. Chen, and we'll get back to you on them. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you all so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Bye.
Kelly for the invite.
Okay.
还有没有那啥？没有，那我就走了，就剩我自己了。